call a meeting. Sorry for interrupting. We need to call this meeting to order. We need to approve the agenda as printed. So move. Second. Motion's been made and second to approve the agenda as printed. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is carried. Public comment on agenda items. Seeing none, hearing none. Communication shared by solid waste board members. None of that either.
I have a question. Is our employment up to full scale now? Have you got the table of organization?
Yeah, we don't, the environmental manager is vacant. And the mechanical technician is vacant also, so there's still two, yeah.
Okay.
On the operational side of things, we're okay.
Getting by okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All right, we need to approve the minutes of October 19th, open and closed session.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of October 19th, open and closed session. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That has carried. Discussion, action, landfill gas utilization analysis report.
Okay. Well, I guess we've been kind of waiting for the presentation for quite some time, and I've got Chris Anderson and Sarah Viney from both on, as well as 3 people from Eco Engineers. So I guess maybe Chris or Sarah, maybe you could introduce the people from Eco Engineers. And then I think Chris was going to start off the presentation. And then we'll just go from there. Can you hear us okay?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Perfect. And I did switch to sharing my screen here. So hope that's popped up all right on your side.
We got it.
Awesome. Excuse me. So I'm Sarah from Foth, here with Chris. We also have Sean and Chelsea from Eco Engineers, and we're gonna, and Kathy, and I believe we're going to give them a section kind of middle of the slides. So we'll have the Eco Engineers talk a little bit more, but really they did a great job on the project, helping us with the energy market and credit analysis, and just provided a draft report last week. So we'll kind of get into that. We've added that to some of our numbers. And I guess, Chris, do you want to start us off the rest of the way here?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. We've been working on this for a while as your power purchase agreement ends at the end of this year. And, you know, there are many variables and potential risks associated with implementing new landfill gas uses or even continuing the current system. And we're here to try and help guide you and to make good informed decisions about what you should do for gas to energy. So the purpose of our presentation really is to go over the work that we've done. And we presented, I think it was back a few months ago, kind of preliminary information where we reviewed the Tetra Tech's report, where they did an analysis of your gas to energy and mostly looking at RNG and bio CNG. Then we also estimated actual gas flows and utilization potential actually with your engines, how you would use them, how much real gas you have, and then what kind of needs your engines would have through the life of operations. And then we brought in this environmental energy market and attribute credit reports by Eco Engineers, because we needed a more detailed analysis of the opportunities for that value. And also to help review the third-party credit offers you've already received. And then what we were able to do is bring that information into this options analysis and then summarize it here today. So if you recall, our review of the report recommended we use a much more conservative approach on gas generation based on current flows and the annual reductions. We also identified some risks associated with, contamination of the gas with air in this case, and then the aging infrastructure that you're going to have to replace if you want to continue. And then we advised that we review the renewable energy markets and attributes with eco-engineers. So then I'm going to turn it over to Sarah to talk about basically the landfill gas generation.
All right, so this curve you've seen before. Really just wanted to bring it back to highlight to where we're at for our actual collection of landfill gas versus modeled generation or modeled collection. So up at top, we've got our orange line and our light green line of modeled generation and modeled collected. And where we're falling and have been falling for many years here is that blue line of this actual collection of the gas here. So to start our sensitivity analysis or our review of Tetra Tech's report and any other future options that we looked at in the options analysis, we wanted to make sure we were starting around that actual collection line. There's various ways to improve landfill gas collection. We don't see a huge option to make up much of that space between that blue line or that orange or green line at this site. We've got aging infrastructure, got aging systems. So we wanted to start our analysis and use flows more around that 500 SCFM level. So to review our options analysis, we looked at flaring only, which you're required to do under Wisconsin law. And then a couple different variations of using your current gas to energy system with engine generation of electricity. So kind of that first one there would be maintain your current operations. We have to do some updates to the gas conditioning system and also the compressor system, which takes our gas from Sunnyview to Snell or to the engines. So we got a cost estimate for that capital investment. And at the same time, your flare is aging and those systems are very much so integrated. So if we're going to update your gas conditioning system, we're going to update your flare at the same time and get a smaller flare and make sure those landfill gas extraction systems are kind of melded together and can work together and opposite of each other. Another option was to look at engine relocation. Got a couple engines and a couple different sites. There's some permitting that could be eliminated with engine relocation, but in looking at it, it turned out to be a pretty small difference and more so additional capital cost to kind of revamp the engine tie-in system. And then the last option under the, kind of as is engine generation would be another replacement engine. We know with engine 2R that gives us additional flexibility to operate with the lower flows or fluctuating flows of landfill gas we get from the older hill. So always an option there to invest in that new engine, but also be able to run your engines on smaller flows and with less downtime. And then Chris is going to talk us through the other options here.
Yeah. Thanks, Sarah. Yeah. So the other options our RNG, bio-CNG. And we reviewed those by scaling the Tetra Tech report for lower flow rates, like Sarah said. And then we have a more detailed revenue analysis by eco-engineers. The bio-CNG option was also scaled from the Tetra Tech report. And then if you recall, there's been this an opportunity for potentially using landfill gas at the state prison. It's been lingering for a number of years. There was an analysis done in 2009 by AECOM, and we reviewed that analysis and then scaled the report or the data to current dollars. And we can go over that a little bit more. The other option listed here is Bitcoin mining, and this is a preliminary concept that would use electricity generated on site to run a series of computers that do Bitcoin mining. I guess this is a common thing. They're looking for stranded electricity that they can use to run computers. If you guys want, we can make sure that payment to the county on that deal is negotiated to be in Bitcoin if you want.
Nothing like a rock.
And we'll pay you
Okay.
the Bitcoin too, Chris.
Okay, that's going too far. All right, let's go to I guess one of the big problems we had, or one of the big question marks, is the valuation of the environmental attributes of the fuel and even the electricity. And so in order to get a better understanding of what what all the options are and whether they could apply, we brought in eco-engineers to help us with that. So they're here, and I'd like to have them go over their part of this project and maybe give us a little background on themselves and the company and kind of what you do, if you don't mind. So I'll turn it over.
Yeah, if Kathy's still here, maybe let her introduce eco-engineers, who we are. She's great at giving that background, and then I'll take over to go over our report here and what we analyzed.
Oh gosh, thanks for that, Sean. Thanks everyone for having us. Good morning and good day to everyone at Winnebago County. Thanks for engaging us through FOLT. My name's Kathy Macbeth. I'm the Director of Strategic Development for Eco-Engineers. We are a renewable energy audit and consulting firm. Since 2009, we're headquartered in Des Moines, Iowa, but we have offices and subject matter experts across the country. We focus and specialize in renewable fuels and all of the renewable markets, whether they're regulated credit markets or voluntary carbon markets. And we have a significant market share in the renewable natural gas space in terms of contracting and doing the carbon intensity work, the pathway registration, the validation, verifications, QAPs, and these type of analysis through our asset development team, where Sean and Chelsea both sit. So with that, I'll just conclude my comments. Please visit our website. We've got lots of great information out there around renewable natural gas and what some of the markets are currently in the future markets that we see. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Kathy. So as Kathy mentioned, we have a strong asset development team for renewable natural gas and a strong understanding of the different markets and options for biogas uses. And as part of what Kathy mentioned was the regulated markets, those being the Renewable Fuel Standard, which is a national program. And then you have the Low Carbon Fuel Standard, this one specifically in California, but there are other options in Oregon and Washington that are up and coming as well. So we, both of those regulated options offer outlets or end uses for renewable natural gas and electricity. If you use that as a vehicle fuel and allow you to earn credits that you can monetize. The other option is using your gas outside of the transportation markets in what we call the voluntary market. And that could be using your natural gas at the prison, like Chris mentioned, or using it, selling it to universities or Fortune 500 companies that are looking to decarbonize and lower their carbon footprint. The same can be said for electricity in the voluntary market. There are many people looking to buy renewable electricity as a way to decarbonize as well. So we at Eco Engineers looked at the different market options in consideration with FOTH and building off the Tetra Tech report. So we analyzed the RNG option, scaling down Tetra Tech's capital costs and operating costs analyses, and looking at the overall revenue attainable through the RNG market. So our RNG compared to electricity offers higher revenue potential, but also has higher operating costs. And one thing our analysis showed, and I believe Chris has this on one of the following slides, is with the declining gas curve presented earlier, by year 6, the project is a net negative in terms of revenue. So you'll be losing money on the project in 6 to 7 years by participating in the RFS or LCFS. And that's primarily driven by the higher capital costs and higher operating costs of the project. On the electricity side, the renewable fuel standard offers an exciting opportunity. They allow renewable electricity to participate as long as that electricity is used to charge EVs. And while that is an option under the program, the US EPA has not approved any previous projects or allowed any electricity to projects to participate under the RFS at this point. And we are awaiting guidance from them as to how they will move forward with renewable electricity under the RFS program. That's still a little up in the air as to how they will deal with who gets to generate credits and then how that revenue share will work. So with too many uncertainties at this moment, we weren't able to put together a full revenue analysis for electricity under that program, but we did look at some potential options on or outline what some of the potential revenue might look like from the RFS or the voluntary market for renewable electricity. So any questions there before I talk about the review of the proposals so far?
Nope, I think we're good. You can continue, Sean.
Okay, perfect. So I know you have received 2 proposals for offtake or use of either electricity or renewable natural gas, one from Carbone and one from OCI Fuel. The one from Carbone was for the use of or the offtake of renewable electricity. And they are offering a 5-year term and to purchase the electricity or RECs from the project at $15 per megawatt hour. And that's pretty consistent with what we see in the market. But they are also, as part of that, taking complete title to the potential to generate E-RINs. And the one main question there is if in this upcoming rulemaking from the US EPA, if they will allow the double generation of RECs and E-RINs, and if Carbone would be able to actually offer that REC price and then have them generate E-RINs for themselves. So the reason I mention that is double counting or double generation is what the EPA wants to avoid. However, there is some potential there to generate both types of credits, where most RECs are awarded on a generation basis and don't specify that it has where that renewable electricity has to be used. So you get the credit for generating renewable electricity instead of using renewable electricity. Whereas the RFS specifies how that renewable electricity has to be used, which is for end use in an electric vehicle. And so there's a potential gap there where you will be allowed to generate, but the EPA in this upcoming rulemaking will decide if that's allowable or not. And then the OCI Fuels proposal, they are offering to buy the renewable natural gas from the project at approximately $8 per MMBTU, and then sell the physical brown gas back to the project at $3 per MMBTU for use in the engines, to allow the project to continue to generate electricity and sell the electricity back to the grid. This is a bit of a unique setup, and our concern with this proposal was there's typically a well-defined scope or well-defined quality specifications for renewable natural gas or biomethane. And typically to meet that, you have to upgrade the landfill gas to pipeline quality natural gas and then sell that into the grid. So if you're going through with that option, that would require the full gas upgrade system. And if you're going through that, Eco Engineers has seen a lot higher offtake offers, closer to $15 to $20 per MMBTU instead of just the $8 and then selling that back. So that was one of our concerns there, is if that requires full pipeline quality renewable natural gas. If it doesn't, then this is more of an attractive option. But what we reviewed wasn't well enough defined to give that clarification. Any questions there? And then I'll summarize kind of our overall conclusions here.
No, I think we're good. There's lots of note taking, but if you want to just roll into the recommendations and
Sure.
move.
So basically, as I tried to allude to earlier, the RNG option has a high capital cost and high operating costs. And while it does offer the highest revenue potential, that the high operating costs seem to outweigh the overall revenue benefit in a few years down the line with the declining gas curve. And so that while the first 5-6 years would be a net positive for the overall project, it's hard to look at making a $15 million investment with potential in 7 years, you'll be potentially losing money on the project. E-RINs for electrical generation offer a really strong option. So when looking at the gross potential revenue from E-RINs at credit prices today and how it's currently structured, the gross revenue potential is very strong in E-RINs and is a very attractive option. But we won't know if that's a real option for the project until the end of the month, where we should get more guidance from the EPA if they will start allowing or approving electrical pathways under the RFS. And then we should get more clarity as to how credit sharing will work under that program. And so that's kind of our recommendation is the E-RINs option would be probably the most lucrative option for the project, but it's hard to know if that's completely viable until the end of the month.
All is a
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sean, I did my basic training in Missouri. And I would like to ask you to show me in a matrix chart the comparison of these options and the benefits dollar-wise. I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm listening to you, and I struggle to listen with my hearing aids, but I hear your recommendations. But
Yeah.
I need to
Can you
see-
show the next slide, Sarah? I'm sorry, we have that, so I want to make sure that you see it. Is this what you were looking for?
that summarizes it?
Yes.
You know,
So
I
I guess,
I gotta digest it.
right, and you're gonna get a copy, of this. We have report and a memo and a summary of the, this is just so you'll get more information. But this slide basically summarizes the economics of this analysis. And what we looked at is it shows the capital investment and the predicted net revenue from 23 through 28 for each of the options. It does not have any, it's more of a comparison, meaning we're not inflating things and we're not including interest. We're just looking at, cash. So if you shut down the gas energy in 2023 and only flare, the costs are shown basically over the next 6 years in order to run the flare, which you're required to do, because you're going to have to invest in a replacement one over that time period. It's going to cost you, $500,000 just the flare. And that's at like $30,000 a year operating cost. So if you continue electrical production at the current rates and costs, update the compressor, including the flare costs, you can see that you're investing in a little over $1 million on each of those 2, 3, and 4 options. And you end up after 6 years close to breaking even or in the hole a ways. But that's the average electricity rate of almost 6 cents kWh. And that's right now where the utility is offering assuming 75% peak and rates and 25% off peak rates. I think that's the current that almost 6 cents a kW is the rate, and then a rec of the 1.5 cents, which is what you got that offer for from Carbone. And so you can see, yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to make the note that this breakdown doesn't show the ERIN option here.
Right.
As we weren't able to fully provide great clarity as ECO ourselves don't have the clarity as to how that revenue breakdown will happen until the end of the month. But from a gross revenue perspective and how it's set up currently, the ERINs would provide in gross revenue approximately 11 cents per kilowatt hour. So an order of magnitude greater than the rec option, but that will likely get shared 50-50 between the different parties, or something around that. So you're looking at maybe another 6 cents per kilowatt hour back to the project. So,
And if you go to the next slide, Sarah, I show that because, okay, so look at the bottom one there. Basically is assuming that you're getting the electricity, paid for electricity at almost 6 cents per kWh, and then you're also getting about 6 cents per kWh for the ERIN. And you can see what difference that makes, because you're in the 2 million positive range after 6 years with those conditions. The one above that shows if you can negotiate a slightly higher rate than the 6 average, say you get almost 7, you're in the positive. Okay. And if you think about it too, if you have to spend $500,000 on the flare, just to run the flare, that cost is actually in 2 and 3 and 4 also. So in reality, it's almost 900,000 to the positive, really. So from the base case. So I think, basically what we're saying is the recommendations would be to continue electrical production, hoping to get the ERINs information, at the end of this month to understand how that could benefit you. I guess that's what we're seeing. Now, there was one other thing I wanted to tell you about. That is the prison. So if you go back to the slide 7, Sarah. Yep. Because I know this shows a positive cash flow too. But I wanted to clarify or caveat that, because this prison analysis was projected capital costs being split between the county and the prison, along with the benefits, and the county's portion is presented on the table. But at this time, the true needs and costs associated with converting the prison to run on landfill gas has not been examined by this team. This concept would need to be reviewed in more detail before selecting that option, because if you look at the last slide, Sarah, the next slide after that. Yeah, that one. So I had it like 3.3 million in that analysis. So if it increased to 5, that was the taking the AECOM report from 2009 and projecting it to current dollars. That gets you, but if gets you this positive cash flow. But if it goes up to 5.5 million split, then we're negative in 6 years. So, and there's a lot of stuff you know, I know this, Pat, you saw the prison options showing this, so, and I know this was like something that seemed like a good idea, and it is, but the process to achieve a pipeline conversion of the, or, you know, to achieve a pipeline and then conversion of the prison equipment and agreement on terms of the state, you know, it just is a lot of stuff that would have to be hurdles to overcome and things to do, and a lot of investment versus continuing what you're doing and getting almost the same potential for investment recovery. So I basically, if you go to the recommendations, you can see what we recommend. Continue current electrical operations, offers the least risk with the lowest investments, negotiate power purchase rates from utility, and pursue those E-RINs as soon as you can. And recall that you guys have already netted, you know, a lot, $17 million in retained earnings from this gas to energy that you've been doing. Your flaring is going to cost money. And then the other, because of the current conditions of for equipment, I would start the design and bidding process for replacing the flare skid and gas compressor treatment system as soon as possible, because there's a lot of long lead times for equipment, and you want to be prepared. I guess, is there any questions, anything to add from the team?
That was certainly a lot of information to try and digest.
Yeah.
But I'm glad, Paul, go ahead.
Well, it would seem to me, particularly with the flare option, we would want to review the values that we bring to the table in making a choice, because you can measure results not only in dollars, but also in the values that are attributed to the actions we take. You can take an action which may not yield the highest revenue return to give us a profit, but you might get accolades from the NACO, from the National Association of Counties, because you have a project which is green and which meets contemporary desired goals. So I think that when we look at these, we have to throw in these other value factors in our final
Decision process. Sure. Makes sense, Paul. We have two things that are pencil out equal on the financial standpoint, and one of them is just flaring gas, and the other one is generating green power and lowering our carbon impact. That to me would be the choice to make.
Well, we're having reduced carbon impact as the gas flows diminish.
Mike has a question.
Mike, I'm sorry.
Can we, let's go over the whole flare thing again, maybe I missed a few things. Our current flare has to be replaced, is that what we're saying, our current flare setup?
Yeah, if we're gonna continue with power generation for another 6-year period of time, we need to upgrade the flare equipment to right size it. Right now, we're kind of limping things along. So we've got $1 million in our 2023 budget to upgrade the flare skid and the compressors to
Sort of meet the current
gas
the
laws.
ongoing. So, but if we just went to flare, wouldn't there be way more gas, so you wouldn't have to replace it? Maybe that's what I'm missing.
I guess to answer your question is that you would delay the need to replace the flare because you have, but that flare has a minimum flow requirement of about 350 CFM. So within about 6 years, you're going to be hitting that. So within the same, even though it may be in year 4 or 5 or 6, under the flare only option, you still have to invest in a new flare. So do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the point is even after the 6 years, we're still gonna be flaring something? Is there still gonna be something to flare?
Yes.
For how long?
Yes,
Forever.
forever.
No, landfill's been closed since, 89.
And then still got a flare?
Still got a flare.
Okay, okay. So you're gonna have to size down that flare at some point along the way. And this just built that. Okay, all right, thank you.
Go ahead. Just being a newbie one of the newbies on the board, is the state prison receptive to this, to continuing this?
That's a question I've got also, I remember, what was it, 15 or 20 years ago, when we were going to get into the prisons. And they just gave us the runaround for at least 2 years, I believe.
Probably even
So
longer.
I'm wondering, question I've got, has anybody talked to the prisons? And are the people down there more receptive to negotiating with us than they were 20 years ago?
Yeah, we haven't made that call yet. I guess we were waiting for both to do the analysis to see how it pencils out.
And what sort of the prison use it for? I think we've got a pipeline going to the prison. And when we were providing gas for them, they used it to heat water for laundry purposes, and that's all they used it for.
But we've never sent
No,
gas to the prison before.
we never did.
No.
Well, there's the jail,
Yeah.
The only-
county
Yeah.
jail, and then state prison, 2 different.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only direct use landfill gas that we've had is at the highway shop.
The highway job,
Yeah.
okay.
Our pipeline goes around the state prison. And like you said, on numerous occasions, we tried to negotiate an option where we sell them gas.
Right.
And they retrofit their boilers to handle it, so it would be for heating and hot water. But it just, when push came to shove, it just never materialized. I mean, it was like, once it went up the ladder down in Madison, then it just kind of got shot down.
Yeah.
Discussion stopped.
That's what bothers me.
Yeah.
The problem is when the dialogue started, it started over here with the warden. He didn't like it to start with. So when he didn't like it, I'm sure the recommendation to the state level was, I don't like it.
Yeah.
So then they just tossed it.
Right.
It made all the sense in the world for them to make that decision at the time. But I don't know why they didn't do it. It was just like,
It takes a variable out of the equation.
yes,
The variable is that this could go down faster than we thought.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, oh, I've got a nice pipeline here.
Yeah.
But in the jail, is the jail different than the prison? I know there are different, but is this going to the jail? or
No.
the Prison.
This is not, when we say the jail, that's our sheriff, Winnebago County Sheriff. There is no direct use landfill gas at the sheriff's.
Okay, thank you. The prison.
Can we quickly go through this E-RINs thing again? I've heard it. And maybe again, where the E-RINs is some subset of the renewable fuel standards. I'd like to get a little bit of history, the idea that the federal government, we can count on them at the end of the month to make a decision about anything seems rather optimistic to me. What is the what is the history of this? How long has this been on the table, and what makes us think that this would actually be a viable option in the near future, given the federal government's penchant for bureaucracy and not really getting anything done?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'll do my best to give background on the RFS as a whole and what eco engineers or where that's going. But so The RFS program was passed in 2005 by Congress and reestablished in 2007. And it sets a baseline required volume of renewable fuel to be used in the marketplace. And so that renewable fuel is broken down into different types, one being a portion from ethanol, another being a portion from biodiesel, and then another portion being from cellulosic fuels. And renewable natural gas falls into that advanced fuel / cellulosic fuel category, where if that energy is used, so landfill biogas, if that energy is used for vehicle fueling, you are eligible to generate RINs under the program. And the I guess refineries have to purchase a set value or set number of RINs based on the petroleum fuels that they blend and sell into the US. So the program has been in operation since 2007. That required volume of renewable fuel has increased year over year.
What does RIN stand for again, if you could tell me? What are the letters stand for?
For RIN? RIN stands for Renewable Identification Number. And so it's just a tag that gets attached to each volume of renewable fuel that's produced. And one RIN is equal to 1 gallon of ethanol. So that's where the program started, was ethanol focused. And they tied everything to 1 gallon of ethanol.
Okay.
So the program has been very successful in driving the production of renewable fuels across the US. It's well established, and in terms of how long it will be in play, it will take an act of Congress to repeal the RFS, and the RFS as a whole it has garnered bipartisan support because it's very good for the agricultural sector, as it opens up markets for corn and soybeans. And then it's been great at introducing renewable fuel into the US, so receives a lot of support on that side as well. So we don't foresee any repeal of the RFS program in the future.
Sean?
Okay, but just so I'm understanding again, the RINs, I thought you said that was for vehicle fuel. E-RINs is now a new part of RINs. Is that what, or it's for electric use as opposed to vehicle use?
Yeah, so as part I guess when they set up the program, they introduced what's called fuel pathways, and that describes how renewable energy or different types of renewable fuels get used in the program, and which type of RIN they are eligible to produce. A couple of those fuel pathways describe the production of renewable electricity. And if that renewable electricity is used as a vehicle fuel for EV charging, and used, and you can improve its use in electric vehicles, then you are eligible to generate an E-RIN, which is just a kind of shorthand for RINs generated from electricity. So that is an available pathway. There have been, I think, 60 plus applications for E-RINs, but the US EPA has just not approved any of those projects to date. So
the dots for me on this project, how does the electricity that's being generated at the landfill ultimately fill or create electricity for electric vehicles? Again, is this one where we have a capital cost or not?
So it's through a book and claim process, or that's the I guess idea is how that would work. So you would generate electricity and sell that to the grid, basically, like you are currently. And then you would enter into a contract with a charging station that will meter the electricity used to charge vehicles. And through the contract that you enter into with that charging station, you'll be able to allocate your electricity production to their vehicle charging. So if you produce, let's say 1 megawatt of electricity in a month, and that fuel cell or the charging station dispenses 1 fuel cell or 1 megawatt of electricity for vehicle fueling, then you match those together and you're eligible to generate RINs on that 1 megawatt of electricity.
Okay, so just so that I'm clear on this, the EPA, we're talking about a revenue generator that the EPA has never once approved any project to date, correct?
Correct. For renewable electricity specifically.
Okay, so but you're confident for some reason that they will approve this one?
That's what we're saying, is to wait for guidance at the end of the month. So there's been tremendous industry pressure to approve renewable electricity projects in the RFS. And the US EPA has made announcements that they are going to release guidance on e-RINs here at the end of the month.
Okay, and then, so they're going to, again, just walk through the steps for us real quick, because if we're talking about this, we might as well understand it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Say, for example, at the end of the month, they give guidance that says, yeah, we're gonna look at some of these, there must be some other bureaucratic process that says the Winnebago County has to submit some sort of plan to them, and then somebody is gonna have to review that, and then that could take who knows how long. Then if that ever got approved, then we would have to go up and seek a contract with an electric charging facility. Is that the next, that would be the next step?
Correct. So as part of that process, once if the EPA agrees to approve renewable electricity projects, then the next step is you'll work in parallel to get the contract with a charging station, and then you'll register your project with the US EPA. And so part of that involves a third-party engineering review and site visit. So an approved engineer will come to the facility, view all of your generation equipment, and sign off on your ability to produce renewable electricity. And then they will submit that to the EPA, and approval for other types of projects not specific to renewable electricity takes between 1 to 2 months.
Okay, so last question. The revenue estimate that was provided for us is assuming this is all in place by when?
I guess thought is, if the US EPA approves e-RINs here this fall, and looks to activate that pathway, that they will start activating that in next summer for revenue generation. So it would begin next summer.
Thank you.
Can I just say one thing? the Carbone offer that Sean briefly discussed is the E-RIN offer that initially was contingent on EPA approving the rules, blah, blah, blah. And it was the same sort of thing where they weren't planning on a contract starting until 2024, just based on the EPA's rule promulgation and the timeline of events. But essentially, that's essentially what they were proposing. Carbone was brokering it to a company called Bridge to Renewables, who would do all the connecting of us as a project to an electric charging station. And we would be paid for RECs in this case, and then they would be able to have the revenue from the E-RIN.
But didn't that proposal have some capital costs on our side, I thought?
It did not.
It did not,
No,
okay,
not
so
that
one of them did.
Yeah,
There was something where we were gonna have to build some electric generator.
well, the OCI fuels one, that's got some grayness to it in the middle part, so. But I guess we wanted eco engineers to kind of look at the two offers that just came out of the blue that are on the table. And then try to better understand where this market is going forward. And I think we still have to wait a little bit before we know the ground rules. But then I think the next step that I want to kind of ask eco engineers is, once the rules come out, and this is a good option for the solid waste board to consider. We just had these two companies kind of come out of the woodwork and throw numbers at us. What would you recommend that we do? Is it a RFP type process, or how do you go about, maybe soliciting more competitive proposals to have, different options to choose from, kind of along the same parallel path?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And so Eco Engineers has helped with that a lot in the past. We can work with you on your behalf to develop an RFP. And we have a number of contacts with different people in the industry that will bid on that. Specifically, I guess at the moment, if you're looking for a fixed price offer for renewable natural gas, similar to the UCI fuels offer, then we have a lot of people that would offer or provide an offer around that, but that would require you to invest in the RNG upgrading facility and then produce pipeline quality renewable natural gas. On the electricity side for E-RINs, I'm sure a lot of the same brokers that we are using for renewable natural gas will have electricity offerings. But at this point, I think you'd be hard pressed to get more proposals on that side until we get the rulemaking from the EPA.
It certainly sounds to me that there's some upfront things that we need to do anyway, and that's to change the flare over and the skid. That has to go no matter what. So if we go that route, we could authorize that. And are we able to, if we continue the contract, continue producing and get the new skid and all that kind of good stuff, is there still an option at some point in time to come back and looking at capturing some of this revenue stream? I mean,
Yeah, I guess I'll just follow up on the discussion we had at the last meeting. WPS, we provided information that showed the contract that we have in place with them right now goes to the end of the year. So they've corrected their billing changes that they made without really letting us know. We've got that resolved. We're under the current contract terms to the end of the year. So that was a good results. But the power purchase agreement that we're working on with WPS would only be for them to purchase the power only. We would be in charge of the renewable attribute component. So the start of the year, the new power purchase agreement, we just get paid a lower rate for the power. And then we'd have the opportunity to go out and market our renewable side, whether it's E-RINs or other options to, I guess, provide the biggest bang for the buck on the renewable side.
So real quick, we've got a 0.069 estimate on one, a 0.05975 on the other. Is that like the range we're in
Well,
that we're negotiating?
yeah, I guess right now, what WPS has offered to continue our power purchase agreement is the 0.69, so 6.9 cents on peak, and then it's 3.2 cents off peak.
Okay.
I think Chris's split, it's probably closer to a 50-50 number because the weekend, if you run engines on the weekends, that's all off peak. So
Okay.
I think if you break it down, it's more of a 50-50 split.
So what was the estimate of the 0.69 or 0.69? Is there some opportunity that we may be able to get that for the full?
Well, that's what's on the table.
It is.
For on peak. 0.69 cents or 6.9 cents per kilowatt is what's on the table for on peak. 3.2 cents is.
No, I understand, but why the next slide had 0.069 as the full rate?
I was just showing you that, sensitivity. If you got up, over what the current proposal was, and I think there is some, and John, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't there some possible variability in the rates?
Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
think-
what I'm showing is changes in rates going up, it puts you into the positive here. And then this is where if you get the E-RINs in at 6 cents, you're way positive. This shows assuming 75% on peak and 25% off peak. John's saying probably more like 50-50. So this would go down. These would be a little bit more negative, but not, so I guess these numbers are just trying to show you some how it could change based on different rates.
So the biggest thing is going to be, how the environmental attribute side works out. Whether it's 1.5 cents, which has been floated out there to us without having to add capital, let's say, into our system. But there may be opportunities to increase that to a higher number once, I guess, the E-RIN rules are promulgated, so.
Right, and the reason we use 6 cents is because, like Sean said, there's an 11, it could calculate out to about 11 cents based on comparability. But half of that, there's a calculation in sharing that and between or what you're able to use of that. So we split it in half, and got it to 6 cents. So or approximately.
We split it in half with
The company that ties the
Yes.
broker? Are they
Well,
got
it's
a
not
broker?
necessarily the broker, but it's third-party people that would tie things together.
Okay.
So
It's the minor.
yeah. Okay.
All right.
So I'm not saying that you're going to get this, but this shows that if you get an E-RIN's value of this, you're going to be definitely in good shape.
Yeah, with some rates like shown in the bottom option, I mean, puts us kind of back where we're at right now. We're at like 10.5 or 11 cents a kilowatt. So I guess that's what we're attempting to do in a hybrid kind of way. So, but I think we want to get to the point where And maybe I'm jumping ahead, Chris, but I think what the next step we want to do, move forward with is, we've got $23 budgeted for this equipment upgrade, $1 million. That includes some engineering, it includes equipment and the construction installation costs of a new flare skid, a new compressor system, that's right sized for gas flows now and 10 years down the road, 15 years down the road. What we'd like to do is get started on the RFP process. Much like we do when we purchase equipment, we've actually started RFPs for our front end loader upgrade replacement, which is a 2023 project, as well as our wood grinder replacement. So at our December meetings, we're going to be bringing proposals to you for authorization, because all this equipment is, 6 to 9 months out. So I think the next step would be, and it seems to make sense, to continue power generation and analyze these environmental attributes. Let's start the process of preparing an RFP for these equipment upgrades. Put it out on the street, see what kind of numbers we get, and then we can bring those back to the board to take action on. And maybe we'll know a little bit more about, the E-RINs at that time. It doesn't commit us to purchasing anything. I mean, we're just getting the proposal numbers out there. We'll spend some engineering to prepare these RFPs and analyze the RFPs. But if it turns out that, we have new information at that time, we don't have to spend them. So, we've kind of been strung along by these EPA rules, and unfortunately, as we sit here today, we don't have the rules yet. But as Sean was saying, hopefully by the end of the month or in December sometime, we'll maybe have the rules and have a better idea of, what options we have. And, if we do this power generation for a year and the E-RINs don't work out and the rates for power go down,
Is what it is.
it is what it is, and then we decide at that time. We've had 15 years of really good revenue from the current power purchase agreement. We set aside a lot of dollars. If we run for a year and it's not quite as lucrative, at least we tried, and then we can, come up with a new game plan at that time. So,
You built your house of bricks.
right. So
So the action we will take will be in. Are we gonna take any action? I should ask, are you recommending we take some action to get that?
I mean, I think you could take some action to begin the RFP
For the flare,
for the flare system upgrades, and compressor system upgrades.
and that was in the 2022 budget.
It's in the 2023 budget.
2023.
But we have some engineering dollars that we could spend in 2022 to accomplish it. To be, because the lead time is probably 9 months on this equipment. So if there's no other, I guess, questions for the both Eco Engineers group, I appreciate your time today and your information. I know it's complicated in various ways, but I think some of the questions and responses helped the board better understand the renewable attribute side of things. So next time. So thank you.
Right. You're welcome. Thank you, John. And know that there is written, this information is going to be transmitted in writing, so you will have a chance to review and read about all of the environmental attributes and all about, probably more than you want to know. But and you can look at our numbers and all the assumptions and get a more of an understanding of how we came up with what we came up with.
Bitcoin mining. Good on.
It's starting to get this.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Thanks,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean.
So probably what I would do then is entertain a motion to proceed with RFPs for the gas or the flare.
Yeah, the
Upgrades.
flare and compressor system upgrades. Using 2022 funds, the capital, is in the 2023 budget.
That's exactly how I would have said it.
As I understand, all of these upgrades are needed regardless of what we.
They're gonna be needed at some point in time, like Mike had asked, with the flares, with the flare skid, if we just flare only, the one we have will work for a while. But eventually, 5 years down the road, we're gonna need to downsize it because it's just too big. To deal with the gas flows. Once you get under 400 CFM, it doesn't run very smoothly. And, you know, as gas flows continue to decline, we'll get closer and closer to that. So at some point, we're gonna need to upgrade or downgrade the flare system.
It doesn't pay to shut that system down twice.
No,
That's, I mean, if you're gonna do it, whatever, shut it down, that's just revenue
and
shortfall.
And again, you know, all this flare equipment is, you know, 15+ years old. A lot of it's, you know, it's been outside, so I mean, it's working, but it's just, we're just getting to that time where it needs to be upgraded one way or the other, and let's take a shot at continuing the power generation, and we'll work forward, come up with some pricing based on the 2023 capital, and then bring it back to the board for discussion and authorization.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to do that.
I'll move that, we authorize administration to proceed with an RFP for the necessary equipment to operate the flare.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, motions have been made and seconded, under discussion. Hearing no discussion, all in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that has carried.
All right. Post report, I'm not sure how big that is, but I know the eco engineers report that they provide is like 50 pages long. So you'll have plenty of reading on all the renewable fuel standards and the
We can
RINs.
save it here in the archive somewhere.
So you know, they are going to report.
The last page maybe be appropriate.
Yeah.
Do you email that to us when you get it?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, discussion action 2022 budget adjustment.
Okay, so in the past, when we've done repairs to blacktop areas of the site, whether it's at the transfer station or on the landfill side of things, I guess for whatever reason, we were budgeting it as capital. So repairs to blacktop areas as capital. We have an area back by the wood grinder, where the yard waste materials are stored, the wind grinder is used, the loaders are used, and the existing pavement is failing. And we need to make a repair. The highway department has availability, with the asphalt plant still running. So we don't have any capital per se for blacktop repairs. So we contacted the finance department and asked how we could proceed to come up with a way to get the repairs done this fall, because they're needed. And I guess what we were told is typically, replacement to asphalt roadways isn't necessarily considered or normally budgeted as a capital item. It's budgeted under maintenance grounds. So they recommended just doing a budget adjustment. We don't have anywhere near the amount in maintenance grounds. We'll be doing that in future years, putting some money in there every year to kind of fix and have upkeep to our roadways. The estimate that Kathy Hutter got from the highway department was about $25,000 to repair that area back by our yardways. And so I think there's only about $500 in that cost center. So just to cover ourselves, I was gonna suggest adding $30,000 or bringing the account 52801-74021, which is maintenance ground, to $30,000 to cover that that repair work this year. So right now we're running as far as the October financial or September financial. We don't have October one yet. No. September financials, we were at a surplus of about $300,000 for the year. So we're hoping that this additional expense for these repairs will come out of our operating. But in the event that it doesn't, it'll just come out of our retained earnings fund at the end of the year to cover these repairs. So.
Paul,
I moved to appropriate the $30,000 for the asphalt repair by the grinder.
motion's been made, second and seconded, under discussion, Mike.
Did we, if we had to take out a capital, was there money there in the capital budget for this?
There's not money specifically for this line item. We have,
That's fine.
there's extra capital, but it's not in the right, it's in equipment or
So who initiated this? You guys or the finance department?
finance department.
Okay, they're just trying to get consistency with this is the type of thing
Yeah,
that we don't, that the county recommend being a capital cost, which means that we appreciate it and all of that.
Right.
Okay. So what do you have for in 2023?
not much.
So, but we may see this again.
We might see this again if there's other areas that we can repair.
Okay, that's the only discussion. All in favor of that motion, signify by saying aye. Opposed, that is carried.
Okay. We actually had a new finance director that started on Monday. Who's that? His name is Paul.
What? I'm sorry.
A new finance director started with Winnebago County on Monday. So,
Where it come from?
Wells Manufacturing down.
Yeah,
Because it's private.
yep, came from the outside.
Yeah, stay long.
Do you recall his last name?
I don't recall his last name, but I remember reading the records.
Yeah.
And that's basically where he came.
Yeah.
Like my father used to say, he was working 60 hours plus a week. And he says, when I retire, I'm gonna get myself a nice part-time job and work 40 hours.
Huh? You do that, $40? Not more.
Okay. Director's report on department operations.
You can put that whole up there. Yeah, the word document. Yeah, so, it's been
Wow.
really busy lately.
Oh, yes, so.
We made it through our budget, which was an interesting process. So the first week in November, starting with Halloween night and then moving into Tuesday, Wednesday, the county board discussed the budget for 2023. You guys made fantastic process. You went through it way faster than I thought you were going to. Tuesday afternoon, we got to solid waste. So we gave her a little overview of our budget for 2023. There was some questions. Supervisor Norton questioned about who sets tipping fees, how the solid waste management board is structured compared to Brown and Outagamie. When talking about the retained earnings fund, we was asking how that's invested, how that shows up in our budget, and how does that compare with Brown and Outagamie. But in the end,
Do you remember? You recall how long Rick Norton's been on the county board? 15 years?
I think more.
More?
yeah,
You're
He
16.
learned anything.
No, Norton's been on there 20.
I wonder if he ever asked this question. I think
He
it
came
was-
on when O'Brien came on back in
Oh, don't put
the.
my name in that same. He's a handful.
yeah. But anyway, then Wednesday, you guys went through all your amendments and we got through that by the end of the day and adopted the final 2023 budget. So that was a good job. That was a good job. The next day we had Youth Government Day, which was kind of a new format for departments. What we ended up doing is they grouped us into, I guess, similar categories. So we were with land use and public works. We were broken up into 3 groups at the courthouse. There was about 100 students set up in 3 different locations. And then each one of the department head groups gave a presentation, a 45-minute presentation. So we had 7 of us, and we only had about 5 minutes to talk about each department. So with the help of Cassie and others in the department here, they put together a nice little PowerPoint that we were able to run through. So we gave little updates on solid waste and highway and parks and land and water to 3 groups of about 100 total students. So yeah, it was a much higher, from what I understand, a much higher turnout than in past years. So I think with few little tweaks for next year, probably will run a little bit smoother, but it was a good event. And then I believe they had a mock trial and met some of the elected officials and whatnot, but we just participated in the morning, so that was good. We haven't had this in a long time, but back, it was the budget week. I get a text from one of my environmental techs over at Snow Road, and he sends me a picture of a pile of tires and TVs that were thrown over the fence at Snow Road. I got some pictures on there. So, so on the first,
There's some idiots.
Because you're probably getting money for those tires.
Yeah, they saved it when they bought new tires. They didn't have to pay the disposal fee.
there you go.
We charge them those tires.
So our guys, I talked to Kathy, we sent a couple of our guys over there to clean it up. They could see tracks on this is off of Furno, kind of on the far east side of the property down where the city keeps their parade float, which also got stolen at one point in time, but
And found with a load of tires.
and found with a load of tires.
What do they do before get to chuck it over the fence? That's what-
So they're checking all the stuff over the fence right on their monitoring wells. Like, what in the heck? So our guys went over there. I mean, it was a full pickup truck load. There was a number of, about a half ton of tires and, 3 TVs. Well, just for good measure. So, based on our charges, it was about $200 if somebody would have brought that in here. So we cleaned that up right away, so it wouldn't sit there. And a week later, what shows up again? Now, these tires were stacked very neatly on the inside of the landfill. It didn't appear that they were thrown over the fence. So we.
Inside job.
So Kathy has a good working relationship with the city of Oxford Street Superintendent gentleman now. And we messaged him the first time and said, hey, we'll clean it up. And, but look, you know, just remind you guys that when they're using the site, the public works area, the site, keep the gate locked. You know, don't leave it open. And so a week later, so this was, yeah, that was the shot of the gate, no dumping, city vehicles only. So a week later, we get 2 stacks of tires down in the same area. I don't know how they got stacked. If the person, the gate was open and somebody just drove in and stacked them up neatly, or they were thrown over and then city personnel stacked them up neatly. I don't know what happened, but. So then we contacted them again, and what the city decided to do is file a police report. They loaded up the tires, they brought them in here, weighed them in, so we have documentation of the cost associated with it. And that's how it's being handled, so.
You have license numbers and things like that?
There's no monitoring.
Yeah. Yeah, it's over the closed snow road site off the front, there's nothing. So I know OPD was gonna come and talk to Kathy about it. I don't think they've come yet this week, but anyways, that hasn't happened for a long time.
There's a place up in Clayton off of Pioneer Road where the town of Clayton periodically has to pick up tires that just get left by the side of the road.
Yeah, so
And it's one particular area that
they show up in it.
they show up.
Would there be a value in putting a base down?
Wow, we had talked about just getting a trail camera and set it up over there somewhere where if somebody were to come in and you could get some pictures of them, but that was decided to be left up to OPD how they were gonna handle it.
Do we have any surveillance in Ken Roble Park at all? No. Because some of that stuff isn't a bad idea. It's a minimal investment for, like, you might want to think about that.
Yeah. So on the gas and energy front, it's been a little bit of discombobulation. Again, fortunately, we were able to provide documentation to WPS to show that negotiations back in 2007 and 2010, that the intent of the agreement was to go through the end of 2022. So they originally billed us, changed billing for September and August, and they've corrected it. And I ran through the numbers and everything matches, so. But we've had a fair amount of downtime with the engine 2R decoke work. The start of engine 3 decoking in September. So the generation amount was less than previous month, $89,033. The issues kind of continued into October with some repairs that we ended up having to do to engine 2R, as we talked about at the last meeting. And engine 3 being down with those repairs coming forward. And then we've also had some issues with the chiller, and actually in the last week, we've had issues with engine 4. So right now, we're only running engine 2. Clint is trying to work on repairs. He's got parts and he started repairs on engine 3, so that's taking a little longer than planned. We were hoping to be able to run engine 4, but of course that's having issues. So I imagine that November is not going to be a very strong month for our gas to energy, but hopefully we'll get things set up where we get December in a little better shape. Oh, one other thing I want to mention is our repair project that we've been having issues out on the east side of the landfill here with oxygen. So we've had to shut down areas because the gas quality was so poor. So we finally were able to get a contractor in to do some repairs. So landfill drilling and piping came on site last week, Monday. and started the repair work. They finished it up yesterday. Before they finished up the majority of it on Monday night before the snow came in and the temperature changed. Initial results are showing that there is an improvement in gas quality and more so oxygen intrusion. So we're in the process of slowly opening up this area of the site for gas collection. And I guess if Clint can get engine 4 troubleshooting issues accomplished, then we'll be running 2 engines when we can the rest of the month. So I guess that's it for operational. There's a couple future agenda items. The county is going through a recodification process of the general code. So at some point in time, we'll have a presentation or discussion on changes to chapter 15. Right now, what I saw in the first rough draft, which we just provided comments on yesterday, there were very minimal changes being proposed. It's more so just making sure the state statutes referenced are correct, and kind of cleaning up some housekeeping issues related to our section. So
Are they going to take away our ability to levy a property tax?
right now, that hasn't been struck out. So I provided our comments, which were very minimal yesterday, and then we're going to be scheduling a meeting with Corp Council, the county exec office, the Department of Administration, to review more in detail of chapter 15. So I guess once we go through that process, then there'll be more information shared with the board if there are any other changes proposed for chapter 15.
They won't dissolve us, will they?
You keep pushing this property tax thing.
Yeah. I don't know the answer to that question. And then the other process that we're going through is the capital improvement plan. They've set a pretty aggressive timeline to try to get projects for 2023 reviewed with the county board in January and February to approve all the 2023 projects in one fell swoop versus department by department by department, coming to the county board numerous times throughout the year. I guess we submitted our capital improvement projects to Mike Collard last week. I need to follow up with them on a couple items because the process involves reviewing it with you in December and then it going to county board in January and February for approval.
So the county does only, they're not doing 5 years?
It's a 5-year, but they're only reviewing the 2023 project. You'll have projects through 2027 in the plan.
That will not be reviewed or acted upon and just assumed.
Yes, they'll be shown in the CIP with backup documents, but the only ones that will be taking action on are the ones that will start in 2023. So now we've always operated a little differently. We put money in the budget. Once the budget's approved, we've moved forward with these capital projects kind of separate from the county board. I'm not sure how that's going to be handled this time around. But there's a couple instances that we have going, and one of them revolves around, we've got RFPs for equipment. So we're going to get proposals later this month for a grinder and a loader. Are we going to be able to go through a normal process, approve the authorization to purchase those items alone? Again, the last loader we purchased, it was about a 7 to 8 month lead time. I imagine the grinder and loader are going to be in that same ballpark again. We've been working with the purchasing department to do these proposals late in the year to get the pricing, and we won't take delivery until 2023. And they've been good with that, but I'm not sure. I need to clarify some things with finance and the Department of Administration.
For clarity, so the capital budget for 2023, that was just, or the 2023 budget that was just approved by the board did not include capital.
That have capital.
So now we're going back through it a second time to reapprove those capital items. Is that the idea? Before you can spend the money, or you don't know?
I guess.
Okay.
We haven't operated under that process previously.
Right. So it kind of makes that up.
So things are changing a little bit.
Wonderful. What's nice about it is it's always nice to put another layer on the decision-making process so that it's like, well, that's why I'm off that door. I'm so happy. Sorry, so.
So I think the way that the code, the general code, for handling capital is sits in the draft 912 pages of general code revisions that I looked at on Friday. It seems like the capital needs to come forward separate from the actual budget being approved. Needs to come forward at a future date to approve capital funding. So I think what they're trying to do is follow that, guys, but just do it all at once and not have parts coming one.
And I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. So it's just kind of amp things up. They're gonna try to make that happen sooner.
When does the county borrow for its capital? That's really,
I think they do it at the end of the year, because we just approved that. What was it, $6 million of borrowing for 2022?
So you approve the borrowing for a bunch of money that's already been spent?
Yes, because it comes before, it came before the county board as either coming out of the general fund or capital borrowing. And they don't know where that's, how much they're gonna borrow and how much they're gonna take out of the capital fund until the end of the year.
So anyway, so those two items have kind of been put in our lap, and will be coming to be reviewed with the solid waste board in December. We've also got a rate sheet that we want to make a few tweaks to, with some of the recycler band items. We're adding a few little things that we're seeing come in. So we'll be bringing that to you at the next meeting. And also, we want to talk about this rebate program that's been sitting out there for a period of time, and we've got some recommendations that we'd like to implement. So we'll be talking those through with you at the next meeting as well. Basically having, a rate for our signing municipalities that would be that $3 off the gate rate kind of thing. That would only apply to our municipalities that are partners with the solid waste board. Any other contractor that comes in, it's just going to be gate rate. There was too many variables out there for invoicing where this contractor had a rate, this contractor had a rate, and it really was a invoicing nightmare for Cassie. So Kathy and Cassie have kind of worked together to come up with a plan, and we'll talk about that at the next meeting. I think it's a good solution. It's more similar to what Brown County is doing, where they really offer the best rates to their municipal partners. And I think that'll be a nice fix for us and simplify the invoicing process on a monthly basis. I agree. So. Anyways, that's all I had.
Didn't ask the supervisor North. He approves. Okay, next meeting date is
December 7th.
How are we?
motion to adjourn is in order.
Don't move.
Second, motion to adjourn is made and seconded. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? It is.
You think we're gonna do a December 28th meeting?